All right, jury, how are we doing?
Good.
Excited.
Excited? All right, so we're gonna have a live conversation here about the 3 finalists left in the game. We have James, Angela, and Jeff. We're gonna start off by a show of hands. Does anyone already have their vote locked in? Perfect. So, we're going to have some game discussion. Obviously, I want you guys to interact with each other. I have a bunch of questions that I'm going to ask, but ask each other. Find out the information you need to help decide for who is the best person to represent your season as the winner of Survive Season 2, Galaxy Curse. All right? We just saw James make his decision as to who had to make fire. What do we think of James' decision in that moment, and was it the right decision? Maybe we start with Meredith.
Sorry. I think you should have put Jeff in against Angela, so Jeff would beat Angela if that was really his concern going to the end with Angela. But I'm glad he didn't take me to the end, and I at least got to do fire. That was fun.
I think it was a tricky moment because knowing if Angela was his target, he had to vary that if she stayed, that means that she won fire. That means that she has another win under her belt and something else on her resume that could put her above his gameplay. So I do think it was pretty tricky of a move. I don't know if there's a best way to do that actually, as opposed to him sitting alongside with her on fire.
Do we think there was ever a chance that James would have given up the necklace to go to fire for himself? Or
No way.
Yeah,
I
he's
don't
too
think so.
selfish.
No.
I just
I
don't.
I lined up the own shot.
You were going to say something?
Oh, no, I agreed with Danny on that. I don't think James wanted to risk anything going into the final 3. Seemed like he was having a tough time with emotions, but I mean, we all know James, and I think he might be an actor on the side or something. So,
Oh, he's right there.
wait,
He's in the woods. He's in the woods.
Around the jury.
Russell without the
No,
fedora.
James and Angela played such a similar game, and Angela is such a more likable character, right? Like, so if she can show the jury, I think how she made the moves that we saw James make because he was loud about it, I think she wins hands down. And so I think having her in the game was a very risky thing for him.
I did hear her say specifically that they had played different games. I am interested to see what those moves were, but I don't want it to be, although yes, like they were seen as a couple, that a loyal pair. It doesn't mean that they played similar games, just that one was louder or not. So I am excited to see what they own up to and what's different from each other for sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
I also want to see the perception of their games, like their own perception on the game they played, because yes, Jeff's quiet game versus Angela's quiet game versus James's louder game versus how they were choosing to shift either with or without each other, and I want to see what. Let's stop that. I want to see what their rationale in terms of what we were seeing from here is.
Mm-hmm.
So you bring up a very interesting point. How do you weigh the difference between the big flashy moves that everyone knows about or a consistent strategy with consistent moves to get you to the final 3?
I think the final tribal plays so much of a role because there's things that Lena's told me I didn't get to work with her a lot in the game that I knew nothing about. And I think that final tribal is where you really laid out, and people on the jury here know, yeah, that's true, or yeah, that's not true. One of us knows. So it's the time where you can say, hey, there was all these moves that I made that you couldn't see because you weren't a part of it.
Yep.
And I think that's what it really comes down to because I'm sure there's a ton of moves. I wouldn't be surprised. I didn't see a ton that Jeff did, but I feel like there's definitely some behind the scene things that he did that are going to be surprising to all of us and say, hey, maybe he is a contender.
So let's talk about that, right? What moves were in the game? Let's go line by line. Let's start with Angela. What are some of Angela's big moves in this game?
I think a lot of, at least for me, I think a lot of people are also curious with Angela's game. I feel like it was more of, she was playing in the shadows. No one knows exactly what she was doing. I didn't have the opportunity to work with her, and I think it's a good contrast between the three, where Jeff and Angela might have been a little bit more quiet, where James is loud, and if that factored into why Angela played her way, because from some of our perceptions, it was seen as they were a pair.
Okay.
And I'm curious if that is why she played a certain way to differentiate throughout.
Yeah,
I also think she was really good at establishing relationships with a lot of people, whereas maybe James wasn't reaching out to every single person. Angela, I feel like probably all of us could say that we had one or more conversations with her, and I think that's one way. Maybe it's not a move, but it's a strategy.
So, yeah, I actually don't think I had one conversation really with Angela that was one-on-one, and it was like right before my vote when we were kind of feeling each other out and realizing we were targeting each other. And from the outside, I really couldn't tell I really need to know, like, what her moves were. It felt like she was playing in the shadows, but I really couldn't tell what moves she was making, what decisions she was doing, what her actual strategy was. Like, from the outside, it seemed like she kind of was trying to bob and weave through it, but I don't know, like, if that was just because she had no other option, was that her strategy? So I really want to hear her come and just strongly say, this is what I did, these are the moves I made, this is why I did it, this was my strategy. Because really, I feel like I have no idea what she was doing in the game, because I just never had I had like very limited opportunity to even work with her or see how she was operating or see what her alliances were, where her head was at.
But I think this is what Final Tribal Council is for her to lay that out, because you can't talk to everybody in the game. If you have conversations with everybody, then you will become untrustworthy. So I hope that she owns up to her moves and knows that she wasn't playing like a super flashy game. If she comes in and like thinks that she was like this mastermind of all of these things, then I think I want her perception to match the reality of the game she played.
Absolutely.
Throughout the game, we saw tribal lines play a significant role in this season. How do you assess and outweigh that in making your decision?
I don't care who was on what original tribe at this point. When those lines got blurred in the game, they were blurred forever. I think we became individuals in the game, and now you have to pitch yourself as an individual, because only one person's going to win.
And I think ultimately we want to pick the best player. I don't care what team they were on. I want to say, hey, this is the person that represents us, not, hey, this is the person from my team that I think did the best. We want to pick the best person overall.
Yeah.
At least the best person that's left.
I think there were so many swaps and twists and people moving all over and separate tribals and whatnot, and idols and all that, that really tribal lines, like, you couldn't really rely on that past vote. I don't know, past vote 1, I guess, honestly, because just right out of the gate, people were getting swapped.
So let's go back to James, and let's talk about some of James' big moves in the game.
I felt
He won 3 challenges.
Yeah,
he won
that's
3
true.
challenges. I'm gonna give him that.
And he
That is
bullied
still
me on Tribal
something.
Council.
That was definitely his low point. I
felt-
think that tainted a lot of people's opinions of him, and I think in a position where he knew he had the votes, it was unnecessary.
And I think what he will try to argue tonight is he didn't know he had the votes, so it was a survival tactic. And there's that. That might be a move, I guess.
I think it was a matter of that we knew we were splitting it, and he knew one of them would be left still, right? So whether or not we had that vote, there was still going to be one of those 2 remaining. But to me at that time, especially when Lena was clearly visibly upset, and he talked to me back at camp, was that out of line? And I told him yes. I said, I don't think it was personal. You didn't say these things are wrong about your character. But to me, that was very difficult to watch and very unnecessary. I like a drama, but just when it seems very targeted, I think it's not fun for anybody to be a part of.
I think James is the type of player that thinks, like, in the game of Survivor, anything goes, and sometimes it seems like he gets a little bit carried away and goes a little too far from what everybody else seems is necessary to accomplish what he's trying to do. I think when he was on the bottom, or it felt like he was on the bottom, his strategy was to really just go all out and make a big scene and try and target one specific person that everyone else was most likely to be afraid of, and then just really everything he was doing was focusing on that. I know he did that to me, and might have been my demise in the game, so but I agree with everyone else. I think it might have been a little too much.
I will say
It
up
was.
to that point, like, it appeared as though he was playing well socially. I didn't have a chance to talk a ton to him, but I know that at the vote where Jorge went out, the group of us kind of just made a group consensus, hey, thumbs up for Jorge, thumbs down for James, who do you want to vote out? And the majority wanted to vote out Jorge instead of James. I didn't, but I digress. But that does say something to his social game and his standing in the game at that time, that was the move forward that occurred.
James did a good job, I think, of knowing the timing of when the original Jovians were going to split. And I told Lena this, but I was working with James a little bit to try and keep each other's names out of votes, and I think James did the same with Danny.
Yeah.
So it may not be loud, but it was subtle, where it's like trying to find some deals to help each other. So I think he did use some social leverage very well in the game.
And those
I
quieter
use respect
moments, those quieter moments did work really well in his favor. It's just that the louder moments have kind of outweighed what we, the jury, are currently seeing. But there's time to recover that and regroup and see what he has to say.
Good on James. Should we move to Jeff?
Yeah.
Well,
Big moves.
Jeff enlightened me to something today that I didn't realize, and so I think this tribal council is an opportunity for Jeff to kind of bullet his resume, because he said that during the water bag holding sandbag challenge, he intentionally dropped so that he could A, make Ryan look stronger and look like a bigger physical threat, and B, so they could get out Savannah. And he said that, and I was like, oh, I didn't know that happened. He goes, oops, I probably shouldn't have told you that. Now, how much of that is truthful and how much of that is to add to his storyline, I don't know, but it is something that, if he can spin the right stories, might really help him going into this tribal council.
To me, it's difficult to look at Jeff's resume because he didn't excel at any of the challenges. And saying that he fumbled one on purpose, to me, I don't think makes a big move. Going against big players like Danny and some folks that are still here, I don't think is also a big move. Like, what have you done? And I think that the fact that he was trying to get to fire shows us that he knows his resume is lacking. To me, I'd love to see what else he has to say.
But did he have a missed opportunity at the final 5 to make a move with his idol, or do we think he was still dead in the water there? Because I feel like he thought that idol was going to be like a big move for him to like whip out and put on, but would playing it have been more beneficial to his game? That I don't know.
I think so. I mean, I think so.
I think there are opportunities
Something
he
would
could
have
have used to play the idol in a way that would have benefited his game overall and given him a little more of a moment of, I am in this game, let me show you how.
Yeah.
But would that have raised a target onto him then next?
Well, it depends. I mean, if the votes were going according to his strategy and the way he wanted them to go, why play the idol? Like, to me, him whipping that idol out said to me, I don't even need this. Like, it's here if I needed it, but everything was happening exactly how I wanted to, and I don't even have to play it, and I'm so confident in my game. So that's what it appeared to me like. I actually did respect that move a little bit, but agreed. Like, if there was something that he should have done and just didn't with that idol, like, that's terrible, and that could be a game-losing move, or lack of thereof.
I think he just has to show that I think things went the way he wanted, but he needs to show they went the way he wanted because he did.
Yes,
That's
absolutely.
the thing. I feel like so much of it is like, I had things that James and Angela did, and I was like, oh yeah, but it wasn't a win for me, right? Like, it maybe made some path for me, but he needs to show that he made the moves, or made the calls, or had this relationship, whatever it is.
That's an interesting perspective, because do you have to be in control of the vote, or can you be the passenger navigating that vote from the front seat.
You can't be the
Good
passenger
analogy,
the
right?
whole time.
Yeah, I agree. You can be the passenger some of the time, but you have to be able to say, but I also did these things. Jeff was always in the majority. You know, he never was fighting for things. Like, to be in the majority the entire time and not have the control, I don't think that there's a strong game to be shown, but he also had a great social game. He's super funny. I think that he probably has some things we don't know about.
I also think it's a big accomplishment for him to have never had his name written down. That shows that he, number one, was always in the majority, but never was somebody people were threatened by, which is really, I think, something. I'm sorry?
Didn't he vote correctly every time, too?
I think so.
I think he has voted
He's had a perfect
correctly
game so
every
far.
single time and never had his name written down, which is something I think every person wants to have happen coming into this game. So if he's able to own that up and explain how he was able to do that, I that might be enough to sway me for my vote.
I heard a comment somewhere down here. Someone said he played a perfect game. In terms of so far, in terms of building a resume, though, Nikki's mentioned it several times that he hasn't won an individual immunity, where James and Angela have both won twice, right? So how important is that, challenge strength in building your resume?
I think James won 3 times.
3 times.
Yeah.
But
Apologies,
Angela then
correction.
won the fires, and then she won 3 challenges as well.
Meredith, you worked really closely with Jeff. What do you think that he can call his own? What moves?
Yeah.
I'm gonna let Jeff speak to that. I don't want to assume anything about his game and put anything in people's heads that may or may not be the case. I'll let Jeff speak to his game. But yeah, the Lena vote, I think he will probably try to say that he convinced me to vote for you, but I was gonna vote for you already. Sorry.
Quick question, who thought Jeff was working with them or was going to throughout the game? I just am wondering.
Almost
points.
everyone.
Almost
points.
everyone, yeah. All right. Or thought they could get Jeff to work with them.
Yeah, on certain votes.
Yeah. All right.
But I think it's because Jeff shifted with the majority.
Yeah.
Right.
So when
but-
you had the majority, he shifted with you. He was very much moving where it was safe. And that's good and bad.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know from each of you, we're going to go down the line, who orchestrated your vote and vote out? And I want to know if everyone agrees with what that person says, right? So let's start with Ryan.
Well, I found out it was Amanda who changed the vote to the split vote, correct? And then I knew what was going on with Lena, and everyone saw her as a bigger threat. And at the time, I thought she had a better chance to win, so I fell on my sword with that one. So I'd say it's mainly Amanda who had the idea to.
So none of the 3 finalists had a hand in your vote out.
I mean, to my knowledge, that's correct. Yes.
Agreed?
I mean,
I don't
I-
have any information.
Yeah, I just tipped off Lena right before the vote, and I told her, I was like, Lena, it's not looking good.
It wasn't just you who tipped me off. It was
Yeah,
also,
but
I would say Jeff.
Put a vote on Ryan, and you'll be here.
I told you to.
Jeff
Yeah.
told you to put a vote on Ryan.
Well, no, he was lying to me, and I said, "Hey, you're lying to me right now. It's me and Ryan, isn't it?" And he goes, "I'm gonna walk away from this conversation." And I'm like, "Cool."
So it wasn't on purpose.
No, I fished it, so it wasn't on purpose. Yeah, I fished it.
Interesting.
All right. Alex?
Who orchestrated my vote out? I mean, I guess I would say James, but that's just because that was the split that I fell into. So I guess out of the 3 finalists, I would say James, but out of more so, I initially thought that it was more so Danny, but it might have been James.
I think I will give a lot of credit to James for that one because I had to put all of my trust into James and Amanda for the first time in that vote. I even said in my voting confessional I was like very nervous to like do that, and I thought if I played my idol at that round, it would show Amanda and James that I didn't trust them. So I do think James had a lot to do with sending you home.
Yeah.
And right before that split vote, I convinced Jeff to switch with James, and we were going to vote you out the next one if it wasn't a split vote. So I think he already had it in his head that it was kind of an acceptable name.
Yeah,
Also.
I was leaning more towards James because when we had talked earlier that day, he was saying like, I just want to feel like someone is initiating talks with me, and I thought that I had done that soon enough, but I did not, and here I am.
This is something I was going to talk to Meredith about, was who had. Well, I mean, the three.
Deciding between you and Angela, I feel like, and
Yeah.
I felt like you were more aligned with Alex, Ryan, and Lena, and I didn't want to. Well, Ryan was out at the time, but I didn't know Alex was out at the time. But I didn't want to lose options, and I wanted to keep options, so that's why I kept Angela.
Okay. Was Jeff a part of? Who was Jeff driving that decision, or was it you driving it?
Person.
It was us and Angela, and I think it was literally it was the three of us, and we were talking, and we're like, is it Josh or Angela, and then they both said, I think I'd rather do Josh, and I knew I couldn't fight.
Well, I mean, the question still
fight the
goes.
duo.
Like,
Yeah,
who-
I felt like I had a better connection with Angela, and I could move forward with more options in the game with Angela than with you.
So it was a mutual.
So it
thing.
was.
think
So
it
I guess.
wasn't any of the
So I guess it was a sort of. Angela had no other option but to go for me, and then
But
Jeff
Angela
and you.
ingratiated herself and made the opportunity for those connections to happen going
Right.
down the line that made it a more appealing option than you, unfortunately.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
So
all
I
good.
said-
Angela took your spot then in their sort of side alliance.
And Angela was on reward with Lena as well, so I don't know if that played a role in like building a relationship to help keep her around, maybe. Like,
Yeah, because I definitely I pitched Jeff's name to Angela as an attempt to see if she was someone I could work with going forward and see if she would take that back to Jeff. Now, as far as I know, they both told me they didn't talk about it, so I was like, okay, like if I can continue to work with Angela going forward, that's like a good option for me after the reward challenge and going into the next round where I knew I would be in trouble with the like cards that I had drawn.
All right, Jorge.
Sammy, I think I was a victim of the tribal line, so I will give it to the Jovian 7.
Pretty clear cut. All right, Amanda.
So I thought it was James just because I had started to try to take James out of the game. I wanted to break away from him and do that, but this sweet person to my right here let me know that it was them. So
I feel like it was more Danny, but I feel like James will probably try to say that he was sniping you before you sniped him.
You have to let James think that the move is his own in order for him to want to go with it. So if he wants to try and do that, go right ahead. But I know I've been working on getting Amanda out for a very long time because I see a lot of myself in Amanda.
that's a very big compliment. Thank you.
So do you know who orchestrated yours?
I think for my vote, I think it was maybe a combination of all of the finalists. Like they all wrote down my name, and I don't necessarily feel like I would give them a lot of credit for voting like me. I think I would give them more credit for making me feel comfortable about our relationship, because it was obvious that I should have gone there, but their relationships that they have with me made me feel comfortable enough that I didn't play my idol. So I want them to talk more about that. And that's why I haven't revealed that I had the idol to them, because I don't want them to know that. I want them to tell me that their relationship is why I felt comfortable at that vote.
I think they think you had the idol because you said I should have trusted my gut, so they're all convinced you already had it.
Okay. We'll see what they think. I'm excited to see.
All right, Lena.
I feel like neither of the duos wanted me to stay, and so I would say everyone wanted me out and orchestrated that, but I might be incorrect about that.
Angela got me out, obviously.
Really? That's a blind side of the season.
Well, I mean, also James, I guess, right?
I mean,
Yeah.
Indirect. Yeah.
I think it was known that James didn't want to be with Angela, so
Yeah.
he was trying to target somebody else, and you were in the crossfire.
I think he really thought that Angela was very bad at fire. He never asked me how I was at fire, never tried to watch me. He didn't do anything like that. He just assumed Angela was really bad at fire and I would beat her, which was
Interesting.
obviously the wrong choice and a bad decision.
So he thought that you were better than Jeff at fire.
I don't know that, because I know that Jeff is very good at fire, and I think it's pretty obvious that Jeff is very good at fire, so that's why I don't understand why he put me in. I just think that was a bad choice.
Interesting. That's surprising, because that's really what he wanted to
Yeah,
do.
Jeff is very good at fire, and I am very not good at
So
fire.
then maybe, I don't know, maybe he just didn't want Jeff to have that platform to add to his resume.
Maybe.
But now Angela
But
has
now
it to
Angela
hers.
has it, which is even
Yeah,
worse.
so that really doesn't make much sense any way you
Yeah,
think
and
about it.
especially because, like, even
He
you
never
said-
talked to me about how I
Yeah.
felt with fire. He never asked me
How?
if I'd be comfortable, if I was good at fire, if I thought I could do it. He just said Meredith's on fire against Angela.
Interesting.
So is that a pivotal mistake?
Yeah.
I think that's a big mistake on his part.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
If your goal was to get out Angela, why aren't you having conversations with the other people who are going to be the ones to take out Angela?
Yeah.
You can't. If he wasn't giving up the necklace to make fire, so why aren't you talking to the other people that you want to beat Angela? If your goal was then to keep Angela, I'm now just confused. So I think James made a misstep.
Yeah, I agree.
Maybe that's something to think about in terms of when you are preparing your questions. That seems to be an answer that someone needs.
You know what I have noticed, and just everybody answering there, is it seems like at least 2 of the 3 finalists had at least some hand in voting all of us out, which is something that I had not realized. And it kind of shows that it doesn't just take, especially in this game, what?
Not me.
Oh, well, you know what? Okay. Like,
I'm sure there's some bandwagon people. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's get her.
I don't know. It just seems like it's not just one like this game. All of like it doesn't seem like one person was just driving every decision, every vote. It seemed like it's just what people's strategies lined up, and multiple people had a say in everyone's vote out.
It's not clear cut, and that's what'll make
Yeah.
the final
Great.
tribal interesting.
Yeah.
So
I do think,
defining-
like, as much as I want to, some of the things I didn't like about James's game, James should have been out so much earlier, but the way he was able to manipulate conversations with people and make you believe what you were doing was the incorrect thing and have you do what was better for him was impressive.
there were some players in the team who
Yep.
did that better than others, and James was. James was one of them.
Very, very strong point of his game.
So ensuring that you're putting the right people on the jury to hopefully vote for you at the end of the game is a critical part of this game. So who do we think has done the best with jury management? Who? Angela?
Angela or Jeff?
Angela.
I think it's
I
Jeff.
think
I think the better
Angela.
question is who we think has not done a great
Yeah, James has done a complete horrible job. Like,
I do think though, James, Jeff and Jeff had as an advantage that his original tribe and the people he spent the most time with, the only people from our original tribe are me and Jorge. You know what I mean? So there, and I know that's not everything, but those initial days of bonding, I think, really did make a huge difference in who people aligned with throughout the game.
Dang,
I saw a
Jovian
big-
really did do, like, it's the Jovian jury over here.
Yeah.
But, I mean, let's say there's 2 Blazar originals, and they went against all odds and made it to the finale. So I think that they do have a lot. They had a harder time to get there than Jeff did.
yeah.
Jeff
That's
had
definitely
an
true.
easy path there because
Right.
he had all of you to play
Majority.
a better game
Yeah.
or a more
Single
threatening
time.
game than he did.
Yeah, there's a reason he was able to stay within the majority in a way that James and Angela were also able to end up doing. And yeah, I applaud that. That takes skill because it very easily, like they were pushing at the start of the merge, it could have been just boom, 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 and we fight it out from there, and that's not what happened.
I do want to hear how Angela was able to go from being at pretty much the bottom of the merge to basically taking out the last player of the game and possibly being the front runner going into this.
I think she was at the bottom after
Bottom of our
Savannah went
SWAT
home.
tribe,
Like
yeah.
she knew every single time we won immunity, she knew, oh my god, if I didn't win, I'm going home. And you could see it in her reaction every single time. Like she
Yeah.
fought so hard in those 2 challenges to keep herself in this game. So she was on the bottom for a long time and really just never gave up. So that's
Yeah.
admirable.
And I know I was gunning for her like immediately out of the get-go of the merge. I was scared of her.
So without saying who your front runner is right now. What I want to do is go one by one and just say one word that defines the game of your front runner. We're gonna start with Amanda.
Oh.
Or anyone that
Yeah,
has it
I don't
already.
know.
This is ours.
Like,
This is
I don't even know
very-
who
I
I'm
don't know who my
voting
front
for.
runner
Yeah,
is.
that's what I'm
And that's
thinking.
exactly what we want. This jury is still undecided, and so it sounds like Final Tribal Council, we need some answers. And so how critical is it that they deliver a really solid, clear, concise final jury, final tribal speech? Oh my gosh, I'm so tired. To ensure that we vote for the right person to win this game.
I want them to be completely honest, show how maybe the perception that we had of them wasn't the reality, and then also don't talk too long. You're gonna lose us. I want them to be concise, because if you're babbling, you're making it up.
Yep. I want to see consistency out of all of their answers. I want complete honesty. If someone lies or tries to stretch the truth or make something up, I immediately will not receive my vote.
And I want authenticity. I don't want
Yes.
the game